And let's just spell it out for you. ECHOPLEX. And their fucking radio station sucks ass.
I'm white, and I've got everything I need. No one clutches their purses when they're in a room alone with me. And I can drive through any neighborhood I please at any hour, and the police don't do a thing. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I got everything I need. I'm a guy getting paid more than a girl with a degree. And I can walk down the streets after dark, no one wants to rape me. And I can get a girl pregnant and just as easily flee. Just like my straight white male dad did to me. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. I've got a pile of broken mirrors and I'm walking under ladders and I'm spilling tons of salt, but to me that doesn't matter, cause my skin and my gender and my orientation are the best things to have if you live in this nation. I recommend it highly. If I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. Shit's gonna work out for me, cause I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We usually do this show on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and we'll be back to that schedule next week permanently because I'll be in a new studio. Will be some fucking climate change. Anyway, climate control. Also, there will be climate change, too. There will be climate change. In fact, the climate will change. It's like 10 or 15 degrees cooler where I'm moving than the hottest days here in South San Jose. Anyway, I'm producer Dave. Find me on your grinder grid in the Blossom Valley area for another fucking 72 hours.
And I am HK Perrin. You can find me on Mastodon at hperrin at port87.social. And that's pretty much my only social account anymore.
Cool.
Certainly not on X.
Oh, I've been on X before, but it isn't the same as being on X now. It felt a lot better in the 90s. Okay, and the 2000s and the 2010s. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. I like to do, like, especially after the last couple things we've covered, they've been kind of like a trudge and like sort of like kind of in the weeds. But do you recognize this voice by chance, HK?
Go into a hotel and whack off somebody.
No, I don't.
Well, her name is Kay Griggs, and she has a story to tell. Not only does she have she had a story to tell, and she told her story for fucking 11 hours.
Okay. Wow.
And
on stream?
The video title, I mean, if you could call it a stream, I mean, look at this. This is like on a...
oh, this was 1998. Wow.
Yeah. We watched all of this during Red Light over the course of like 6 months. But
wow.
I thought I'd take it from the top because you think we listen to some fucking wild claims from some of the people that we cover on the Intellectual Dollar Tree. Well, you're in for it here. This is some weird shit.
Okay, I'm not sure what to expect.
Your name is Catherine Pollard Griggs.
Yes.
You are the wife of Colonel George Griggs.
Yes.
11 years of marriage.
Yes.
It's true that your husband is has been the head of special operations under Admiral Kelso, NATO.
Yes.
And it's true that you were the head of the hospitality committee.
Yes.
You were the member of the executive board of NATO's Wives Club.
Absolutely.
And also that your husband's background includes NATO Defense College in Rome,
Yes.
Princeton class of 1959.
Yes.
His intelligence career, his spy career began in Vietnam,
Yes.
and it's also true that it continues under this day,
Absolutely under General Wilhelm.
and that your husband was the liaison between the White House and President Jamal of Beirut, Lebanon, at the time of the bombing of the Marine barracks in Lebanon.
Yes.
And in fact, your husband was an alcoholic,
Absolutely.
and probably
Incredible.
is to this day.
She just answers all these questions the same way, but don't worry, it doesn't take 11 hours to get where it's going, HK.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And during these drunken stupors, he would, so to speak, blab on and tell you everything he knew about the intelligence
Everything.
community.
Everything.
Nothing was hid.
No.
It was like he wanted to relieve himself and unburden his heart.
Yes.
And so he told you everything that you now know about the
Yes.
intelligence community,
Yes.
and that you are talking about. And in fact, he told you that they knew the bombing was coming down in
Yes.
Beirut before it occurred.
Absolutely.
And also, by your association with him, you have come to understand and know, this, as shocking as this may sound to the people who are viewing this, that the United States military is literally run by sexual deviants heavy on the homosexual side.
Truly.
And that the
Okay.
This is good.
in the United States military,
As a
people
means
like
of
Jeffrey
mind control?
Yes.
Do gay people have mind? Dave, do you have mind control?
I mean, they'll get into it, but the idea is more like the blackmail, which, by the way, is one word. But
I'm assuming, he outright said it. Homosexuality is what they're talking about here. As if, labeling it sexual deviance wasn't obvious enough what people like this are talking about.
Yep.
But I don't understand what they mean by mind control. So, I get that they hate gay people, but
I think whatever. They'll get into some of it. This is 10 hours and 50 minutes. We're obviously not watching the whole
Oswald and a
thing.
host of other people who have a sexual deviant background, primarily homosexual. These individuals are actually sought out by people within the military, the Army, for advancement into intelligence type work because they are so easy to control.
Yes.
And
Homosexuals are the easiest control because of lack of ego. That was the first thing you noticed about me, right?
So wait, they're saying that homosexuals aren't the ones doing the mind control. They're the ones being mind controlled.
I think it's like in an MLM, it's like you eventually go from being the victim to being the victimizer.
Okay, so it's the homosexuals both doing the mind control and being mind controlled.
I mean, yes, but I only know that because we watched all fucking 10 hours and 50 minutes of this over the course of 6 months on late at night. I don't remember much of it though. Some of the memories are blurry.
Literally, as outrageous as this sounds, is a mind control.
And let's be
operation.
clear, it sounds pretty fucking outrageous.
We're only 2 minutes and 21 seconds into this too. It gets better.
Totally now. They've gotten rid of the good folks, like MacArthur. Got rid of them, one by one.
Good.
Totally take over.
All right. Let's talk about
General MacArthur retired and was long dead.
who
at this point.
told you that we've never actually.
I wonder what she means by the good folks.
They're probably the straight ones.
That's all just been a scam. Who was that
Well,
individual?
my husband. When we the first 3 years we were married.
Oh gosh, it's a fucking essay on the screen right now.
4 straight gins, vodkas a night, a bottle of wine, and a beer machine beside his desk. I only knew him 2 months before.
By a beer machine, she probably just means a keg, right? It sounds like this guy knew how to party.
I don't know what a beer machine means. I'm guessing like a case of beer,
A kegerator,
or a keg that's been tapped,
or maybe it's a secret alien technology.
Or he asked me to marry him. He'd been married.
Maybe it's
before,
alien
And
beer.
his first wife was a total alcoholic.
Now, someone would ask, why would you marry a man after knowing him only 2 months?
I'm a strong Protestant Christian, and
Some people would ask that, wouldn't they?
Not the
Seems
interviewer,
crazy
though.
to marry someone after knowing them 2 months. Seems absolutely crazy.
Oh, don't worry. Kay Griggs isn't crazy, HK.
Predestination, Scottish grandmother, and I was working as assistant director of the Chamber of Commerce. I had a brand new, relatively new Saab, my first car. It was an 83 Saab. I bought it secondhand from somebody who's 84. And my husband was driving.
The two faces of George
Mine was a
Bush.
turbo, his was not. He rented part of my house. It was, I had a young doctor and his wife and 2 children who were renting the house. They were leaving before the end of the lease time, and they put the ad in the paper and told me about all these people, and I said, no, 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 no. And I was, had been engaged to someone else. You know, I was just renting my house out. And they said that there was this man who had a dog and a mother-in-law and a son, and was a widower and a Marine colonel. Well, and had a dog, and I said, no, absolutely not. So the point that I'm trying to make is that he was someone I was not really, I didn't cotton to. He sort of acted like a robot. He was very clipped, and I didn't want to like him. But when I heard he was a Princeton graduate, I always thought that was kind of great. When I heard he spoke fluent French, and I speak fluent French, when I found out that he drove a Saab, I drove a Saab. And when I
like,
found
let's get
out
hitched.
that he went to the same
Those are really
school,
weird
high school
requirements
that
for a
my uncle had
husband.
gone to, was in the same eating club at Princeton that my Uncle Ben had gone to. He was on scholarship and went to Princeton. Everything the same as my uncle, who was also in intelligence.
Was he your
But I
uncle?
didn't think about that then. I was just thinking, you know, this is God. This is too much.
Is she saying that she married her uncle?
No, HK.
So it
Okay.
overwhelmed me. And he's very, very good looking. At that time, he was very good looking. Now he's aged and he really is haggard.
Had a rough life.
Yeah.
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 I mean, fucking, he drank
Wow.
like a half a bottle of scotch, a bottle of wine, and had a beer machine next to his desk and was just knocking it back every night. Yeah. How do you think I'm going to look at 60? I mean, I don't even party that hard.
Do you even have a beer machine?
Maybe she just means a mini fridge.
So I was overwhelmed by him. Plus, my job at the chamber was very demanding. I was doing a great job. But he said that he wanted me to retire because he wanted to make general. And the man who could make him general was General Louis Buell, because it was just a matter of having somebody who would make you general. To be general, it wasn't what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Louis Jewell,
You needed somebody above
Buell
to pull you on up.
Yeah, Louis just happened to die, and we went to his funeral.
Okay, can I just ask like a question that may be a spoiler?
If you're just watch the video, please.
Okay.
George didn't make
I have this theory that I'm working on in my head.
But his first wife...
You can make your guess.
My guess is that her husband is not actually in the military, and this is all like a long con.
Been, I'm sure, battered to death. I was battered, and, you know, but I thought it was just Vietnam and all this kind of thing. And I was trying to get him to stop drinking because I couldn't imagine how the Marine Corps would allow someone to be a total alcoholic who couldn't even carry on a normal
Yes, Marines famous for not drinking.
conversation.
Yeah, there's no alcoholics in the
He
military.
can't even carry on a normal conversation with anyone unless he's drinking. He never smiled unless he had a glass in his hand. He drank solidly. I have a letter in his own hand that tells, and this is the truth, he drank solidly this amount that I just said for 30 years. His booze bill, and they never entertained, he and his
Spoiler alert, he's the guy who wrote that song, One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer.
was $250 a month. And this is from the Naval Store. Now think about that. He was totally snockered, just his whole brain, and yet he's working. He is head of running half the world's Marine Corps under General Al Gray.
A man who is mentally incapacitated.
Totally.
Unless he's inebriated, and then when he's drunk, I mean, he's in a different, altered state of mind.
He can't discern anything.
He can follow orders.
Oh, and that's all he does. And he told me when,
that's
one
his
of our
job.
many conversations, he was trying to, he thought I was, because my family were all naval officers and I was out in the world with the chamber, that I just sort of went along with this kind of stuff. And it was just incredible to me that.
How many wives of high-up military people are there, like yourself, that are speaking out?
None. I mean, they're all 30-year Marine wives. They're Stepford wives. They are petrified. I have had conversations before I went public, before I went to live with Sarah McClendon, who saved my life.
And Sarah McClendon is
the senior White House correspondent.
Is she that little old lady we see on TV asking the president those pointed, jabbing questions all the time?
The little red-headed, feisty Texan who broke the Billy Saul Estes thing. She doesn't go along with the clone group of reporters who are all, most of them, intelligence officers.
Most of the reporters are intelligence officers. Believe me, I know my husband was in the military.
Because she was in the Army during World War II. And she's just a remarkable mind, and I lived with her for 5-6 months. And what's interesting is she called my home after I had called her or seen her on C-SPAN. She couldn't get through to my house. I was living there by myself. Every time she called my home, this is 1996, from March until she finally got hold of me, she had to go to another phone in Maryland to get me on the phone. Every time she called me from her house, she was told, this is a military base, and the Griggses don't live here anymore. Now, that was my phone number long before I met George Griggs. It's my granddaddy's farm, the house that I owned.
So your phone was being diverted.
Absolutely diverted.
Or she was calling an old number, and then she found the new number.
It's electronic warfare. It's part of their deception. They have many levels, but it's all under a big operation. They have an operation now to totally ruin me. His first wife was murdered.
Now, some of the things you talk about here, this big operation, you've come to understand about the largeness of it, the intricacies of it.
Was that an accusation right there?
Yeah, but not against anybody specific. It was just they, right?
Yeah, just the military.
Yeah.
Is that right? Could you hold that diary up so we can get a look at that? And the thing that I found,
this is worse than pointing your
diary.
Phone at the
Just hold it up
fucking computer screen.
Chest high.
Okay.
There you go. And these are the actual handwritten notes of your husband.
Absolutely.
And they reveal an awful lot. In fact, does the military or those in the intelligence community, do they realize you have a copy of this?
They do now.
Yeah.
I had a phone conversation with General Jim Joy.
How long ago was this?
It was in February of '96. I tried to ask the colonels. They knew I was on the move, trying to find information. And my husband had mentioned General Jim Joy.
Yeah, it's hitting the microphone right there. Just
go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right.
All right.
It's like nobody can read it anyway.
I had to call a General Miller in Jacksonville, who was in my husband's address book, and told him I was looking for Christmas card list, and I needed General Joy's telephone number because
you sent a Christmas card through the phone?
One of the colonels whom I trusted, Colonel Ken Millis, lied to me. Captain Phil Hallwager lied to me. And so I got this General Jim Joy, who was the one who was in the Operation Just Cause. Was it Just Cause, the one in Panama? He was in charge of all the psychological operations, the booming music that they hit Noriega with, the chasing him around, the
same stuff they did at Waco, too.
Of course.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
Okay.
That's General
She knows all
Joy,
about Waco, too, I think.
behind Waco.
I see.
And General Carl Steiner, the Snake.
Okay.
who tried to steal Desert Storm away from Schwarzkopf.
Okay, so but you were trying to get some addresses, and they were giving you the complete runaround.
Oh, don't even know him.
Don't even know him.
Don't even know him. And I knew him because my husband told me, that he worked with General Joy and General Steiner. They were the triumvirate.
Uh-huh.
But they had different names. They were, in plain clothes. They had different passports. So I got him on the phone. I was given the number by this General Miller. And I said,
so in the movies, when they say they shall disavow any knowledge, that's not just that's not just a little thing for movies. That's the truth. They disavow knowledge of all these people.
Totally lie.
Yeah, but you nailed him down.
Yes, I said, General Joy, I'm Kay Pollard Griggs. My husband, George Griggs, was...
Were they talking about Mission Impossible right there?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just it's a trope in movies too. It's not just Mission Impossible.
He's battered me badly, and we're looking for him because this has been going on.
I wonder if they know that the IMF is made
I was
up.
recording this conversation. You see, I was sitting on my bed with the diary right out in front of me, and he didn't know that I had the diary. He didn't know anything. It was cold call, like they do cold murders after when they graduate from SEAL school. Cold murders. I was doing a cold telephone call. And he said, no, I don't believe, and these were his exact words, no, I don't believe I know your husband. This is someone my husband, I have a card that General Joy sent my husband after the murder, of the death of his first wife, saying,
doesn't mean you knew him.
This man, here I was, traumatized, battered, beaten, and he lies to me. So I said, well, General Joy, that's funny, because I'm looking at my husband's diary when he was in Beirut, and you're meeting with him almost every day. I said, first, before that, I said, he was the chief of staff for General Al Gray, he's one of Gray's boys. Chief of Staff of Fleet Marine Force Atlantic.
High up military officials generally put secret information in their daily diary, right?
I would think so, yeah.
You live outside of Quantico,
obviously.
don't know my husband. I made it very clear. No, can't say as I do. So then I told him about the diary, and these are all immature adolescent males. These are men who don't know how to deal properly with adults. They lie.
With adults.
They hide behind trees.
But when you nailed him on the diary,
or he's a spy, and that's his job.
He realized.
He said his exact words were, "Oh, that George Griggs." Oh, that George Griggs.
And that's just
maybe he was an older man, and you jogged his memory.
On deception that you found with these people.
Absolutely.
And
maybe he still didn't know and was like, whatever, lady.
They would like very much to have this diary. This one page I found particularly interesting. What you and you're probably more familiar with your husband's handwriting. Instead of me reading it, read these notes that he had recorded there. These might help.
Okay, I've got these.
Alrighty.
A number of the Marines told me a little bit about Dale Dorman. Dale Dorman's not a happy camper.
Okay.
Dale Dorman, because of some mistakes my husband made, was shot. It's 7:15 to 7:30. Dorman exited Riviera. That was a place, sort of a hiding place or whatever. Gray and tan Mercedes. Up to 5 shots were fired. He raised his left arm. One round penetrated his arm. One struck his chest. Walked back into Riviera to the desk and called Post 1. Security vehicle went to pick him up. Returned to Durafound, 15 to 18 meters away, and treated. Medvac called 7:50. Medvac wheels down at 0810 in a H-Bird helicopter, Riviera Hotel, approximately 1/9 of a mile west of the embassy. Dorman has been there since arrival, except, briefly during a period of siege. He was not wearing protection. Saw 3 men in the vehicle. One leaned out back with a shortened rifle or automatic weapon. Sentry at B1 saw and heard nothing. It's just one page of the diary.
Sentry saw and heard nothing.
Right.
In other words, the sentry
Don't talk.
doesn't talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's just a whole world of these kind of assassinations and murders and directed. In fact, at one point,
is that what that means? It sounds like that's just an assumption.
Right, and this is also from this. We are taking her word that this is from her late husband's diary too. That's, you know what I'm saying. She could have just wrote all this shit down herself.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking was going
her
on.
husband is dead?
At this point, yeah, I believe her husband had died. She actually doesn't really talk too terribly much. She refers to him in the past tense the whole time.
Okay.
Oh,
I thought she was talking about how he doesn't look very good today.
Discussion.
I guess if he's dead, yeah, he
already had his
probably really doesn't look very good.
Now, he'll talk to any woman or anybody who drinks with him, he'll talk. This man, what is he doing in security? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When he was at NATO, I'll get right back to that, but when he was at NATO and he was the head of special operations. In fact, I've got copies of his secret check in and out papers at NATO. He had them at home. I somehow, I hope I still have those, but anyway, the point is, I could get in and out of the NATO headquarters just walking in, and there were all these shady-looking garbage men, and George would leave his office door wide open at lunchtime. He was flirting with a secretary who was a chief who knew everything. The point is, what lacks security? And I had to say, George, look, you have got to do something about the security here at NATO because...
She showed up at NATO and was like, I've identified all the exits. I see all the cameras. I've broken through your security system. She's fucking Michael Weston from Burn Notice and shit. She's like, I got into your office. If he did in fact work for NATO, he might not have been at a secure facility. He might have just been in an office building.
She's coming in there like, these are the ingress and egress points that need to be secured. And he's like, we don't do anything here that would need that.
And also, let's say he was an intelligence operative. Maybe he got drunk and fucking told a bunch of tall tales to people. Because that's what I'd do if I was an intelligence operative. But I'd be like, but what if instead of my actual job, what if you just sent me out to get drunk where the other spies were, and I just got wasted and lied to them?
Yeah.
I can walk in and
maybe the government thought she was a spy.
It's also, she's like, I can walk in and out, but what if they knew, like if they know, if it's just a regular off, if it's not a secure facility and that's his wife, they're like, hi, Kay.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah, she can walk in and out because she's welcome.
I'm a very demonstrative person when it comes to security and honor and integrity and your word is your bond. My culture, my father, my people believe in, in this nation, in my state, Virginia, my people, my culture, my God. This is important. You don't just treat that kind of thing lightly. So I said to him, if you don't do something, I'm going to Landis Kelso. I was in the Wives Club. She was the head.
And Landis Kelso is the
wife of Admiral Frank Kelso, who's a wonderful man, honorable man, wonderful woman.
So she's going to go to another military wife and go, did you know I could just walk into my husband's office? And the other lady would go, okay.
Yeah. Do you not want that ability?
And I had great rapport with her. I sort of stopped an international incident.
Oh, you did.
The English and the British who were ganging up against the French, and they were over, something that was really minor, but it was huge. And she helped me. I determined that it was a problem, called her up, and she helped me, and we we diverted and averted a major thing. So he knew what I would do, and I said, look, if you don't write a report and do something about this, then I'm just going to go to Landis and say what's happening.
He's like, hey, don't let my wife in here anymore. She thinks she's a security expert now.
Point is that the man would, when he was in Beirut...
Oh my God, I can log on to my computer and all I need is my password. What the fuck?
Yos Taleb, whose husband was a double agent, an Arab at the American University of Beirut. He leaves his briefcase wide open. He was with her for 5 weeks in a hotel. This is a married woman with 2 children, and who followed him all around the United States, is still seeing him. Met him in London, lived in Virginia Beach, was working in international...
Oh, Madison Starmoon's mom.
While he was married.
Would you say your husband is fairly typical of these powerful men?
Oh, absolutely typical. When I was single, working at the Virginia Center for World Trade, 4 of us old friends that I went to school with, Molly Holt and a few others, we would go all together to a place called Poppy's. At that time, he was Captain Jerry Unruh. Now he's Admiral 3 stars Jerry Unruh. This man, again, was married. He was running around with the tailhook crowd. I did not know he was married. I knew he was a Navy captain. I was told by him that he would be taking command of the carrier Saratoga. Mm-hmm. He followed me everywhere, even went up to Wintergreen. Now, he sent me pictures, private, separate pictures of the Israeli guys waving to him. Hmm? He was a tailhook pilot, the airplanes, the jets, and he was a Mustang, but totally immoral. Totally, and knew that he would never get caught. In fact, he was in tailhook. They had a big party down at the beach, and they were doing, I didn't go by that time because I
wasn't invited.
I was married. And the point is that
regular listeners to the podcast are probably like, what the fuck?
This whole group, I've found out about Al Gray,
General Al Gray.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, what is this?
Wait, what was the point of the part about them having a party at the beach?
She doesn't know anything about it. She didn't go. They just had one.
They just had one? That was her point?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm paying attention, but that doesn't mean I'm able to follow the stories as they're being told, right? A little disconnected.
Is she just like trailing off her stories?
The thread of the sexual degeneracy and the homosexuality and just the raw, base nature that seems to be so prevalent. Have you ever determined what it is? Why?
Well, it's a way to handle them, to control them.
Years ago, you thought of people like General Eisenhower as an upright man. I don't know.
Well, I know some things about him.
How far back can we go to where you find people that are decent and moral and upright?
Right.
Where you had real people who defended the Constitution, who had a feeling...
Robert E. Lee was.
Nationalists and America first. You got to go back a good ways, probably.
Absolutely. You see, growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, my whole family have been naval officers and also working. In other words, they would enter the service during a time of war, of need, and then they go back.
So Robert E. Lee died in 1870, and she was implying that he was the last person who cared about the country,
or was one of the good ones.
I guess is what she meant.
Yeah, but he actually got his ass kicked by the good old U.S. of A. If I read history correctly.
Yes, yeah, he was a traitor to the country.
Definitely.
But she's saying there's no one that's been in the military since 1870, And this came out in 1996, right? So it was over 100 years later.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure she said that, but she certainly picked an odd example. You know what I'm saying? Of one of the good ones.
She picked a very specific example, and I think she knew what she was doing.
Being husbands. I had a wonderful father, wonderful grandparents, wonderful family who put their family first. Well, they put their God first, Christ, and then their wives and their sons and their children. This is the way America was built. Now, these generals in the Marine Corps and Army...
I thought it was specifically not the way America was built, to put God first. In fact, the First Amendment says that it's not the way
America was built. Now, these generals in the Marine Corps and Army, they don't look at it that way, according to my husband. They are ordered, and my husband, being chief of staff, told his men it was like this. It's the Marine Corps first, the brotherhood, the cherry Marine, you know, the bonding that goes on. Mm-hmm. The Marine Corps comes before God, before Jesus Christ, before the country, and then it's it's whatever the religion they have. I don't know, because my husband is not a Christian. He's an existentialist, and most of these guys are.
What is an existentialist?
Well, it's not a Christian. I'm not going to... I don't think that's not important to the story, HK, I promise.
Al Gray is.
Okay.
Krulak. I think his wife goes to church, but
their God is this brotherhood.
The brotherhood, and it's very German. It's very...
Does it have Masonic leanings?
Oh, absolutely Masonic leanings. In fact, the admiral, who was the last admiral whose car my husband bought, he was very impressed with this Norwegian admiral. They're all Masons now. Mm-hmm. Not all Masons, but this brotherhood, Opus Dei, if they're, or the mob. I mean, the one thing I've been able to determine about the current Marine Corps, the Marine Corps that my husband came in with, Gray, Reap, Sheehan, they're all mob.
No, you see mob.
They're all the mob?
Mafia.
They're all
New
mob?
Jersey Mafia, right.
Yeah, they're mobbed up. They're also Freemasons and but wait, HK, there's more.
Right.
And there's
Brooklyn, New Jersey.
Okay, is the mob and this military bunch, they're one and the same?
The Marine Corps guys are the hitmen. And they are mercenaries. They'll work for anybody. You think the Marine Corps is under the Navy? No way. They can.
The Marine Corps is mercenary hitmen, mobsters that work for anybody.
That's right.
Colonel,
okay.
And if the Army colonel meets a Marine Corps colonel, the Army colonel is superior. They'll switch hats just like that.
He's on top,
My husband
you might say.
said it's just, no big a deal. I'll go work for the State Department. I don't really. The Marine Corps is just it's like a smoke and mirrors thing. And they're run out of New Orleans. 4th Marine, Oswald. I mean, they are not on his level. He said, we've never been an enemy of the Soviet Union. They work with these communists. The man who started this whole intelligence operation, the OSS, he was recruiting known communists who were involved in the...
okay, so they're communists too.
Spanish, subverting Spain.
Should I be writing this down? Will this be on the test?
You would... You'd end up with a notebook like the one that she supposedly photocopied of her husband if you started writing shit down. You might have to actually just use newspaper clippings to take the letters out of it and turn it into a fucking ransom letter.
No more. They're not Americans. They're not Christians. They're German existentialists. Now, what are they doing running our nation? It's kind of, they have more affinity for the state of Israel right now than they do our nation.
Okay, so the Marine Corps is running the country? Is that what she's saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Via Opus Dei and the mob.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, this isn't even the craziest part. I promise.
Not American citizens. The judges now in the courts are military officers following chain of command orders. They're not independent judges.
So
okay, so the Marines run the courts too.
Like the judgeships.
Sure. They're all Marines.
Senators,
or Army officers,
congressmen.
Sure. Who is John Warner? A Marine. Who is Chuck Robb? A Marine. They control the powerful committees. Dick Davis, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia.
That's a great name.
Marine. His wife was, I hate to say it, well, everybody knows, in Norfolk, a prostitute. You know, Martha was a wonderful woman, I'm sure, to him, but they were involved in organized crime. Now, I don't know. I know the present governor.
I'm fine with someone being a prostitute, but I'm not cool with someone being in the mob. Does she have proof of that?
These people are probably all dead, right?
An Army officer.
Okay.
He takes orders. So the question that all of us wives are asking now is, well, who gives the orders? If they're told that we, the wives, are enemies, how are the sons going to grow up? If the mothers who are teaching them truth are lied to, and the husbands are told, ordered by the likes of Al Gray, major homosexual, when he was in the, I shouldn't say this, but it's true, when he was in Marseille, the boys are called Gray's boys. He never married.
Okay, the boys referring to everybody under
boys,
him.
Everybody under Al Gray. And he had a separate organization while he was commandant that was a contract organization.
She said major homosexual.
That's a new rank in the Marines, actually.
Okay.
Like a major general.
On people.
Yeah, like you start out as a private homosexual, and then you
work your way
eventually
up.
Become a major homosexual.
That's definitely correct.
Okay.
Corrupting them.
Now you're catching on.
People. So that he would have something.
Is there a captain homosexual?
So that they would use
all the captains are homosexuals.
That later to control and manipulate them. It's like what happened to Newt Gingrich. All of these guys, like Newt.
That sounds like a superhero. I would totally read that comic. Captain Homosexual.
Who've gone through the sweats, like Cohen. What happens is they get a little tiny thing to prove their power, how much power they have. They use guys like Michael Isikoff in Newsweek, or their little clones, you know, like Woodward and Bernstein, who are operatives.
Okay, they're former military too.
Well, oh my goodness, they were. I believe it was Bob Woodward. It's either Woodward or the other one.
Bernstein.
See, I knew some British intelligence people, and
Captain Homosexual's arch nemesis would be named Dr. Hetero.
Ambassador to Great Britain, and this man was sleeping with Peter Jay's wife. And there was a movie, I think Jack Nicholson was this guy, and this was her story about what she went through while her husband, the columnist, was sleeping.
Actually, I think his name would be Ron DeSantis.
To get information on what was going on in Great Britain. Now this is the team that broke Watergate. So what were the motives? Of course, Watergate was horrible, and Nixon had something like 60 military JAGs alone working for him, doing dirty tricks. One of those JAGs was Ernest Frank Reynolds. Changed his name to Ern Reynolds. He came to me. I was farmed. Tim Hunter.
I mean, that just sounds like a nickname.
Yeah, that probably is.
Came to me with this story about, oh, you know, hard luck, you know, Saudi Arabia, and I was in the Army, and I have this friend who can help you out with your legal case. He's a really good guy, you know, Ern Reynolds. And if you meet
You know
him, I
that
know he'll do some
Robert
really good
Best
work for you. So
changed
I
his name to
Sarah,
Bob
and
Best.
I didn't have
Why are you
any
trying to
money
hide,
when I was,
Robert?
But I took the little, you know, the train into Fairfax. He met me in his Volvo station wagon with his jacket on. I didn't know what the big 4 meant on his leather jacket. And he took me to his
What did it mean?
4th Marine
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
operative. And he had the most fantastic
What does that mean?
See, I'm a big book person, and I love, you know, reading history and everything, and I'm impressed by
She likes history so much, she's inventing it.
who are intelligent, who are wise.
You have a master's yourself in.
Scottish history, and undergraduate in Virginia history.
Okay.
I worked on the Dunmore papers. I studied with people like Ian Cowan and Geoffrey Barrow and Tom Devine. These are scholars in Great Britain who are experts on the Reformation, and my interest was Mary Queen of Scots at the Reformation, and also Lord Dunmore, who was the last royal governor of Virginia, and I was working on the Dunmore papers too.
I see.
So
you had an interest in, I mean, this guy's layout impressed you.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
a real intellectual.
Yeah, and he was divorced, you know, a sad story and everything. Worked for the Justice Department. Was supposedly a whistleblower. Supposedly a Christian.
So this guy's really going to help you out?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Boy, did I buy into that.
It's like
She got scammed by a lawyer.
To help you.
Oh yeah. So I caught him sneaking around my house at 2 o'clock one morning.
2 in the morning?
Yeah, and of course I'm most gullible in school, you know. So I'm trusting, I'm a Christian, and I always look to the good side of somebody. I see the good little part. It took me about 3 times. The guy had my original documents that had just been...
You got scammed 3 times by the same guy?
Well, she said that she caught him in his house 3 times, HK. She caught him in her house 3 times. I mean, I know.
The first time should be the giveaway.
I mean, I know why he was there.
He invites me to a cybernetics conference in Champaign, Illinois. I leave Martha Roundtree's apartment, and it's arranged so that all of my things are in his safe little car, and we're going to his parents' house in Roanoke. And of course, you know, you can't take all your things to the cybernetics conference, because I was going home. But this is a smooth psychological operations guy. I mean, he is doing psychological operations on a woman in Champaign, Illinois, who is the lover of a German spy. Who
By psychological operations, does she mean mind control?
It could mean anything. I don't know the specifics of the thing that either did or did not happen or didn't happen the way that she's describing it.
Okay.
I think maybe he was just their lawyer.
He's showing me these letters. The guy's perverted. I mean, he's writing Susan Parenti these letters, you know, like invading her mind, and, you know, why are you... And Susan's written him 2 letters or 3 letters. She's very beautiful, and he's got pictures. But he's sharing these letters with a group of men, 7 men, one of whom is head of intelligence, is head of computers and the intelligence for the Army, Ron Jarmuth. Now, Ron Jarmuth comes right out and says, I'm an anarchist. You know, I mean, his family are New York, old Zionist Jews. He met his wife in, I think, in a kibbutz. You know, I mean, he's a nice, personable guy, but when you say to somebody like me, I'm an anarchist, just so blithely, and you know, and he's always over at Ern's house. And Ern's got a picture by his bedstead drawn by a man who's a known homosexual whom he met when he was at the University of Virginia, who was the chaplain at Hollins College, who my best friend was there. And she said, he's a well-known homosexual. And I'm thinking, what is a picture of Ern Reynolds doing being painted when he's young by this known homosexual? And then I find out that the man who enlisted him in the Republican Party. He was doing dirty tricks for 7 years for the Republican National Committee. I mean, dirty tricks. Underneath this man from West Virginia who was a homosexual, and left all of his money to Ern's son and took his son on a trip. Now, and Ern is
she says known homosexual as if she's saying like a known burglar.
Right, but I mean, like the thing she's talking about happened like prior to this too, and this is like in the 90s, so there weren't a lot of out people, especially not in the military, I don't think. So this is and not especially, these are Republican operatives too. Not a lot of out people in the Republican Party at this point, that's for sure. Her stories are, you know.
She could go a little easy on the homophobia though.
She could.
But I doubt she has the incentive to.
In the Episcopal Church, he's got
might make her look reasonable.
That he meets with at the seminary. I'm sure that my case, my profile, he's probably got charge of it now. He's the expert on Catherine Pollard Griggs, but he's not. The guy is absolutely not grown up.
But
he's a thief.
And so your case just got stonewalled, just got sucked into a memory hole by a guy who was acting under orders to.
Sure.
You get Catherine Griggs under your control, and that's that.
Sabotage her.
Sabotage, yeah.
Sure.
And he stole your documents.
Sure. Sure. Sabotage me. Turned on me right in the middle of the commissioner's hearing. Laughed at me when I cried. You know, this is a guy who hates women. And
hates women or hates
the interesting
you?
Thing is, I went to his family home, and he had
because last time I checked, the only person who was every woman was Whitney Houston.
And he told me that his father battered his mother. His father was in the Marine Corps, and there was a picture of Chesty Puller in the basement.
Well, that fits the profile, though, doesn't it? I mean, if his father battered the mother, which he grew up in this dysfunctional environment.
Totally dysfunctional.
So when he hit the military, or he was noticed...
Did she just do gummies?
Or whatever,
maybe.
So here's a guy...
A little bit of coke in the gums.
Mind control.
Sure, he's
to
got...
be developed.
Yeah.
I think you used the term for budding. He was recognized as a potential bud.
Yes.
And he's moving up the ranks.
His roommate was from New York, was a Zionist, and he was an outcast at the University of Virginia.
That's a great little chyron at the bottom.
Why would he be an outcast?
He felt he
says homosexuals are seen as the easiest mind control subjects.
And I don't know this man who was the homosexual from West Virginia. And we had to go by through his town, and, you know, the guy died. But this homosexual was a friend of the homosexual at Hollins, who was a chaplain there at Hollins College, whom I met. We had lunch with him one day. The father had the picture of Chesty Puller, and so forth. Well, Ern, I knew he was trying to sabotage me, and so forth, because I had already had Alexander Robinson come down from Princeton every other weekend, my husband's teacher, who was also a Marine, whose family brought over the Saudi royals, who was one of my husband's teachers, and I caught him walking around my house at 2 o'clock in the morning. I overheard him talking to my best friend.
A lot of people walking around her house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Just, you know,
Gee, why do you think this? Never mind.
Undercutting me.
All these men walking around her house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Is just under so
Were they
much
putting on their
stress,
shoes?
You know, and he's a very handsome, very dignified guy, you know. Went to Columbia University, was in Algeria, that area, with the Marine Corps. then went into the boys' school, the Hun school. He's an intelligence, without a doubt. His brother-in-law was Bill Eddy, Colonel Bill Eddy, who was the, I believe it's the brother-in-law. I've got to get his name.
There's a full transcript of this 11-hour conversation.
Eddy, and it's Bill.
Imagine being the one who had to make the transcript.
As the translator for the Saudi royals during the Roosevelt administration. And the Roosevelt, the New York crowd, was trying to steal all of those countries away from Great Britain. The Balfour Declaration had sort of come in, and there was a guy named Moose, not the present Moose, who has the Africa desk at the State Department, who's an African American, but this was a guy named Moose who helped the State Department steal Saudi Arabia away from Britain, because Britain was allowing the Saudis to be Saudis, you know, to keep their religion, to keep their culture.
Right.
They were not trying to kill people right off the bat, you know. So George is part of that OSS crowd.
And their stock and trade is just murder, assassination.
Absolutely.
Creating conflicts, phony baloney wars,
Yes.
conflicts,
Yes.
for the purpose of making
Selling weapons.
money,
Drugs,
drugs.
controlling the drug flow.
Now let's talk about the drug.
Now they're
flow
drug
in the
dealers,
United
too.
States.
Yeah.
Based on your conversations with your husband,
I met drug lords through him.
such as
I met the head guy. See, George was telling me everything. First 3 years of marriage, it was just like, you know, you're with me, gal, because he was so used to talking to Mary Halab and Anne Bouchou.
Yeah.
You know, the group partnerships with sex and all this stuff. And you know, I'm a pretty loving woman, and I'm fun. I was then.
But you're not into swinging.
No, I'm not into
And
swinging.
swapping husbands and
no,
wives.
and George was into swinging. He and Sue and Nancy and Jim Earl. You know, I mean,
Wait, which one is her
and I heard about
husband?
that.
George.
Okay.
Colonels. And one named
But then your husband also would tell you that this is just life the way it is
Oh, yeah.
in our crowd.
Oh, yeah. This is
All
it.
these generals, admirals, colonels, all these people.
Yeah.
it's-
Men, too. Yeah.
You know,
So, but he was...
I'm pretty sure her husband didn't like having sex with her.
I'm trying to remember
I think I've
what
pieced that
rewind
together.
it was
I'm pretty sure I know why.
that I was going to say, and I remember...
Do you think it might have anything to do with her finding strange men in the house at 2 a.m?
Yes.
Anyway, I can't remember.
always talking about the.
Actually, even crazier men known to her.
Yep.
They're into making money.
And all of the drinking makes a whole lot of sense now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the beer
fine.
machine.
My people are a drinking people.
all these drug.
I too would own a beer machine if I had to be married to her. And hide who I was.
Or just without the second part. Even.
Oh yeah. Either way.
Fahim...
As if they were just business partners.
Oh, yeah. Well, he told me what they did. He, you know, Fahim was a colonel. He's in the diary, too. But George said what they do is they nurture, they cultivate the sons of prominent families in all, the State Department finds them. They're called rising stars.
Yeah.
And
Cultivate with mind control tactics to mold young boys' personalities to turn them into very corrupt adults.
Yeah, the chirons on the bottom of this, a lot of them are kind of bigoted, but then some of them are just like, what? Like, why is this so crazy?
I mean, I understand that this is bigoted, but also it's just totally fucking nuts.
Jews, they turn them, they bring them in, they rope them in. If they're alcoholics, give them more booze than anybody. If they want women, you know, they find the women, they turn them, and and then let them know if they ever get in any trouble, come on over here. We'll take care of you. Well, Fahim had come on over here. Things were getting hot in Beirut. He was a Catholic. He was very prominent family, and he was going in hiding up in Maine. I remember I had his number, and I talked to his sister, but they just culled a lot of the stuff out of the house the very first time when George kind of disappeared, and and then I found out about what happened with Sue, his first wife, and all of that.
Well, now, did they? Did you come to learn how drugs actually come into the country?
Yeah.
I saw a news piece one time where a pilot who was in prison alleged that they actually landed on military bases with huge planes loaded with dope.
This is how they all brought them in. The Norwegians, the Brits. The drugs, you see, they would come down through Burma, Turkey. They'd come through the Bekaa Valley. The banks were in Beirut. They were in Panama, Mexico, in St. Thomas, after, the laundering of cash. You see, cash, that's why some of the banks in New York, you can very easily find out who the drug lords are. Barry McCaffrey, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he said something he let it slip out. He's an Army general, He said, we haven't done any more or any less in the last 5 years. Now,
in terms of the war on drugs?
Yeah, no, they're just holding it. The word he used, I think, was holding it. It was a word that you could tell they'd used in briefings. They were the guys who were doing the drugs are military officers. In fact,
doing the drugs meaning controlling
them.
The flow.
Oh yeah. In fact,
probably also doing them.
His best friend's Colonel Ray Moore. I suspect that Ray Moore was from the gang, the ghetto area in California.
The ghetto.
His wife was a very good friend of mine, Charlotte.
She's dead?
No, he is.
Oh, he is.
But when George would sort of disappear.
Your husband?
Yeah, all of a sudden they would appear and be in the house. Calm me down, take me over, exercise, do all this mystical stuff.
Mystical stuff like exercise?
And it was really funny because they came back from Mexico. And George just happened to disappear, and they were right there, Well, Ray Moore...
So were they like running cover for George?
All this stuff I knew about...
I think so.
Okay.
His background, and I started thinking, what's going on in Mexico? Why the heck is Ray going down to Lake Chapala? And he would talk about his day. His day would be going out with the men, playing golf, going to this spa with the men, They were doing deals, going to Guadalajara. And there would be Tom Reap, another former chief of staff for Greg, going to Mexico. There would be Ken Millis, another temporary chief of staff when George's wife's funeral took place. There was Ken Millis. Now these are guys who are part of what we call the Brotherhood, and they're all going down to Mexico. So what's going on in Mexico? Ray's one of these guys who wants to sit in the sun. He doesn't want to go down there to Mexico and do all that stuff, but he did, and he got
Mexico
cancer.
Famous for not having sun.
And another guy got cancer all of a sudden, right after he got out of the Marine Corps.
No, not to diverge from what we're talking about right now, but did your husband ever tell you anything about any disease warfare, like giving people sicknesses and?
Yeah, that's part of. He called it ABC, NBC. It was something like nuclear, biological, chemical. ABC, atomic, biological, chemical, they call it biologicals. And in fact, I'm not going to mention...
Disease-causing drugs, chemicals used to slowly kill off those who are against the Brotherhood. That's fucking crazy.
his name because
They're talking
he's a
about
guy.
like weapons. They're not disease-causing
Really,
chemicals that are used to
scared.
kill off people who are
The word
against the
they use
Brotherhood.
is shitless. Excuse me. But that's the word. This guy is petrified
Because
because he's doing that work
the chemical,
and biological work. The Marine
I mean the laboratory work or the implementation?
dealing, subterfuge, deception in the
Okay.
Middle East.
Okay, and they use
He's a Marine Corps colonel.
disease-causing drugs?
Absolutely.
And then how do they administrate them?
In missiles and in.
If you're against this Brotherhood, I guess they shoot a missile at you.
In missiles?
Like Peter Kawaja, Marine Corps guy.
Somebody in chat
He's
just said
working
ABC, always be chemical.
Plain
And
clothes at one of the plants in Florida.
So hold
This
on.
is
She
why
thinks
George is in
they're
Florida. This is
using
why.
missiles to distribute chemicals to kill off the enemies of the Brotherhood. And the Brotherhood is just this like gang of people in the military.
I would call them maybe an orgy of people in the military.
Who they control the drugs and they go down to Mexico, right? And then they shoot chemical missiles.
They're all down in Florida.
Am I
because-
following this correctly? I feel like there is no way to follow this correctly.
You are following the. You're doing pretty good.
Okay.
All this stuff is being. We manufactured the chemicals and biologicals that were in Iraq. Now,
Everybody
if you
knew
don't
that.
believe me, you don't believe Peter Kawaja, a Marine Corps colonel, he says they killed his wife. I believe him. He worked in one of these factories. It was supposedly a candy factory where they were manufacturing deadly killer things. The Marine Corps, Al Gray, Krulak, Carl Mundy, he's in the CFR.
This may look like a
He was in
gobstopper,
Ken
but
Mills'
actually,
class.
it's a heart
Who was
stopper.
the Chief of Staff, the one who controlled me. You know, I went to his mother's house in 7 Mile, Ohio. Flo, his father was a German Nazi. I'm not saying that, you know, being a German Nazi is bad, but
What?
he's part of this group.
I'll go ahead and say that being a German Nazi was bad.
Yeah, being a German Nazi being a Nazi at all is bad. German or otherwise.
She's like, oh, I don't want you to think I'm passing judgment. This is just descriptive. My God.
And
Oh
if you
boy.
don't believe me, if you don't believe Peter Kawaja about the drugs, you can, I mean, it's just, it's
Willy Wonka and the Missile Factory.
there's a guy named Randy Hebert, Lieutenant Colonel, hero, American patriot. This is a guy who should be the commandant of the Marine Corps, Krulak. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Al Gray, I'm talking to you, Carl Mundy. You all are adolescent, immature, I call you twerps. You're liars, you cheat, you steal, you kill, you're beneath the contempt of any of your wives. They are scared to death. Why do you do this to your wives, guys? Look at that tape of Randy Hebert. I knew Chesty Puller, and this is a strong, wonderful guy. I knew his wife, Virginia Mack. I knew a real Marine. You can't say that you knew them because you didn't. I did. Randy Hebert sat. He could hardly talk. He was leading a platoon into Iraq. His wife was sitting.
So when she's talking about these other
Wonderful thought.
like Marine people and other Marine wives, were these also like secretly gay men and the wives of those men?
Not these. Yes, these men may have been her husband's harem.
Okay.
Father was sitting to his right, and he said that his colonel, he's a lieutenant colonel at that time, I believe he was a lieutenant colonel, he said, my colonel ordered me, he said, all of our registers were saying, this is danger, there are chemicals, biologicals everywhere. I was told, and I was, you know, followed orders. And he was having a hard time talking. His wife was, this is a young guy. His wife was having to interpret for him. He was crying. He'd been turned on by you guys. He said,
He'd been turned on?
On those canisters, on those boxes were American.
Chemical weapons given to Saddam Hussein were made in
Those
USA.
were American.
That's exactly what it says.
Biological.
Chemical weapons.
We were walking into that killed me, that you, Gray, and you...
Did this air on TV?
Absolutely not.
McFarland.
Okay.
What do you think? This was just a mini series, like an after school special? I mean, what do you?
I mean, earlier one of the chyrons, or is that what they're called? The little blurbs at the bottom.
Sure.
It said like on this channel, and I'm just wondering, like, was this a TV channel, or did they mean channel as in like, order our VHS tapes because we're a channel?
What if this was posted to YouTube?
Not in 1996.
Well, the video could be, you could record a video in the 90s and then post it to YouTube later.
Well, I mean, where did it originally air?
I don't think it did.
Okay.
And you guys knew, you, Ed Wilson, best friend of my husband, you all sold to Saddam Hussein. And not only that, I talked to the man who trained the woman,
best friend
over from Iraq,
best friend,
to learn how to build the biologicals and chemicals, the plants. She was trained here in the United States, and you all know that. And Randy Hebert's testimony says everything that I could say 1,000,000 times better, because this is a man who's a real man, unlike the generals, unlike the colonels. This is a real hero.
Now, is Randy Hebert, is he still alive?
I don't know, and I hope and I pray to God that he is. Because this is the man who should take over our Marine Corps, or his wife.
What are your
So that's why
qualifications
they
for
don't have
taking
any
over the
women.
Marine Corps? I'm married to someone in the Marine Corps.
or his wife.
Special operations.
Take over the Marine Corps or his
That's
wife.
why they don't have any African Americans. They're too honest.
That's how I understood that
Too strongly
sentence.
Christian. Now, the only guy I know who is involved is a homosexual. And his buddy is an Israeli agent. And they are lovers. They're a pair.
A couple.
But
Well, now, as
he's
the
now a colonel, and he is under the guidance of Ken Millis.
okay, now as these generals over the period of years,
They are lovers.
consolidated
They're a pair.
to where they're all part of this
Not a couple, a pair.
Yeah. Like, what a weird way to put that.
club. I mean, this is something that's been going on for years and years and years.
Members of the firm.
Okay,
The
so as the
brotherhood.
firm grows, even as the old guys, the gray heads get old, die off, retire, whatever, they already set in motion a system that culls out these young, budding, rising
Yes.
stars, and they move their way
Yep.
up. Well, then, in time, it consolidates to where no one
No one.
is in this unless they're in the club.
Absolutely.
So is your conclusion, based on what you know from your husband's revelations, reading his diaries, this sort of thing, is there anybody in the U.S. military, the Army or Marines, anybody in the level of, your generals and your colonels, is there anybody who would not be in this club?
There's nobody who doesn't know. In special operations, I would say, and I would put money in the bank on this, not one of them is not a party to this. It's not once they get that bird, Colonel, that bird, they go through an initiation ceremony. This is not and my husband told me about that too. guys.
What's the initiation ceremony like?
They get them drunk. Dining in, shellback. He told me.
Oh, dining
It's-
in. This is a term that they use.
Oh yeah.
A code
yeah.
word.
Oh yeah.
Shellback?
Shellback. They
Should we read this This blurb at the bottom.
Yeah, go ahead and for the people on the podcast, if anybody's still listening to the podcast.
It says, similar to initiates of Yale Skull and Bones, parenthesis, death cult, end parenthesis, drunk, comma, put into coffin, in all caps, and sexual acts performed.
I mean, like, let your freak flag fly. It's fine.
But they get them
Like,
really
this
drunk.
is absolutely just like a sex club.
The guys who are that way do it. It's a group situation thing. And I was told by two colonels...
Dining in and shellback, code names for satanic ritual-based sex practices.
It's normal, Kay. This is just what we do in battle, you know.
This is just good old boys.
This is just what we do, Kay.
They get drunk and they
get drunk and they ejaculate. They beat each other off. You know, it's awful.
It's just what happens. It's
Now,
perfectly normal. It's just what happens.
They get drunk and they beat each other up.
I'm not God, and I'm not going to judge them and their souls.
Oh, she is totally judging that. She is judging them so hard right now.
She's judging everyone they've ever met, even if she doesn't know their name right now.
The judgment oozing out of this woman's skin is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
I mean, later on in this video, she does say,
Go into a hotel and whack off somebody. System. And when you've got the commandant well known as a cherry Marine.
Which means
it
Cherry
says
Marine.
It says Cherry Marine in red on the bottom of the screen now.
Bottom. They're the bottom. The Navy guys are on the top.
No, the cherry goes on top. Everyone knows that.
This because Walter Chrysler in Norfolk, each port has a hierarchy. Wealthy at the top. Walter Chrysler and Phil Hornthal. Everybody in Norfolk knows.
In the homosexual community, one's called the bottom, the other's called the top.
I was engaged to Jack Mace when I was at the Virginia Center for World Trade. He ran the Maritime Association, the Shipping Association. Always dealt with the labor union guys. Always all male banquets. And I couldn't understand why, I was engaged and I couldn't even go to the 1,000-man banquet.
Well, because that would have been 1,000 man and one woman. Then we'd have to change the name of the banquet. In fact, if somebody calls in sick, they just call the whole thing off.
We can't have a 999-man banquet.
Who's going to eat the last piece of rubbery chicken?
Big argument about that. Rock Hudson, where did he meet his guy? Navy. Jim Neighbors, Navy. All of these guys, Navy. So they're tapped for whatever it is, acting, singing, The point is, Liberace,
Was he Navy?
I believe he was.
Was Liberace
I
in
know
the Navy?
that, he was, someone told me that he was a friend of one of the guys in Norfolk. There was a ring, a VMI ring of men in Norfolk, and I knew they met once a month, and some of them were married, some of them weren't. But they were all Navy. They were Army, Navy. In other words, it was kind of a group of men in Norfolk. And then I found out that the organizations, like right now, the Al-Anon is run by homosexuals. The Better Business Bureau. The Community Fund, which is the, I forget what it's called now. I'm so old, I'm 55, but it used to be called the Community Fund. That guy. Jack Mace, And I'm wondering which one isn't. I mean, they all are, and the guys know it. So what's going on here? They
Sex.
know it. Old Dominion University, the Clyburn, intelligence family. He was well known. 2 reporters on the Virginian Pilot who do the very important columns and so forth. I mean, it's just. So I'm saying, who's making the decisions to do this? They're military. What is the reason behind it? Why do they keep the wives out of the loop?
So when people suggest that the United States of America is becoming a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah,
absolutely, without
this really is not just a broad generalization.
No.
That this
Somebody in chat said she's just speed running, outing everyone.
Club, as it's grown over the years, and then placing and promoting the key people in every strata of life.
Right, banking.
Then the whole thing, not only the military is run by degenerates and top-heavy with degenerates.
Top-heavy,
people who are moral.
Top-heavy with degenerates.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of things that could make me a fan of the military, but if like everyone in it was gay, I would totally be a fan.
Some people are more bottom than others.
Supposedly the most important leaders who were picked out by Jerome Weiner, Jerry Weiner. I was a shill for that. I had done a lot of great things at Old Dominion. They wondered why I did it, because they don't understand Christians. And he knew I was a worker, so they hired me to go over to the World Trade Center, the Virginia Port Authority. I had an office in there. And Jerome Weiner, what's interesting is Mary Clark Collab worked.
Her husband George was like, Jerry, could you keep my wife busy during the day?
Okay.
The girl who had my job, who was a normal woman like me, because there were a few who were not so normal, like Bobby Bray. Not the Bobby Bray who ran the Port Authority, but another Bobby Bray. He was very nice, but he was a known homosexual who worked with Weiner.
Oh, gosh.
Outing everyone.
The secretary was pushed out of a window. Now, it was all hushed up.
Of course, she committed suicide.
Yeah, this was a young mother who had a baby who knew too much about his money laundering. I reported the money laundering that Book and Weiner. Now, this is a professor, head of international programs at Old Dominion University, Jerry Weiner, whose father was very high up in this Zionist group. Jerry Weiner was doing intelligence work in Algeria, in Morocco in particular. He organized this board that I was a secretary for. He was a very sick, mean guy. I mean, you talk about really water. But Jack Mace was on the board, and there was a banker on the board.
We can take a break.
And take a break.
Yeah, don't, did you stop it yet? No, don't stop it. We'll just leave these synchronized. And is your wife getting a cup?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was thinking I could use a little.
She's apologizing for needing a glass of water.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm thirsty. But Gustavo...
She's apologizing for showing her human side.
He was from Columbia.
She tries to hide that.
He was in
by being a monster.
In Virginia National Bank, which is now Nations Bank. And, I didn't put him, because I had studied Latin American history under a wonderful Dr. Blossom. I knew a lot of stuff about Latin America and Nariño and how Panama became a part of our country. And,
Wait, what?
I mean,
Panama's not part of our country.
And running things through and everything. But Gustavo was in charge of all the laundering that was going on in Virginia National Bank in the port. And where did he go after that? He went to Florida. And he introduced me to Ana Maria Quintero, whose brother was one of the big mobsters. I mean, the big, Colombian. I met Ana Maria Quintero. See, I don't forget some things like this. It's that's why they don't like me.
It's hard to forget something you've made up.
Because I imprint on wonderful foreign people. I want to know them. I want to send Christmas cards, and it's not very good to have somebody like a little magnet. I'm sort of like a Monica, she's seeking out sex with important guys. I'm wanting to meet people like that from different cultures because I want to learn about them, because that's what Christ said. You go out and you minister to the people who are foreigners. You don't just spend your time necessarily with the home people. You need your home people as a base. But you need to go out and find out truth and spread goodness everywhere. Truth is goodness. Truth is light. And that's
all right. When is she going to start spreading goodness?
It took her a very long time to get her that glass of water.
Truth. You're not.
Thank you.
You know, all these cathedrals.
How far are we into this video?
In his honor.
An hour 5 out of 10 hours 50.
He was wonderful.
We are only 1/10 of the
Not
way
because
through this video.
He hung
Holy
around
shit.
a little group, but because he was out trying to. He told the big guys, look, stop being bullies and cowards. Let the poor people into your church. Everybody, God gives us all a unique spirit. Our timing is different. Everybody's fingerprints are different, eyes are. We have the right.
We're going to go ahead and fucking put a fork in the podcast here. I'm not even sorry to anybody listening to the podcast. We'll watch a little more of this during the post game, and we'll go ahead and this is the last intellectual Dollar Tree from this location. So we'll go ahead and give this one out as a freebie. Head on over to patreon.com/Echoplex. You can get it for free, or just email me and I'll send you the fucking file. For anybody who doesn't want to listen to any more of this, what's going on here? We figured it out in the chat while we were watching this. Her husband was either gay or bisexual, and she constructed this entire reality and conspiracy around it to explain away the fact that it was just a result of them growing up in a homophobic society where her husband couldn't be out. And that's like kind of what we figured out, like maybe 3 hours into the video when we watched the whole fucking thing late at night.
Yeah, that's that checks out.
Well, that's been the Intellectual Dollar Tree podcast. I'm sure nobody I'm sure you're like, well, what? Anybody who's still listening to the podcast on this, I salute you, because I could imagine 5 or 10 minutes in, somebody going, what the shit is this?
What the shit is this fuck?
Yeah. Fuck shit. Fuck. Anyway, just for fun, I'll read the show out this week. Everybody, thanks for checking out the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We usually do this show on Wednesdays 7 p.m. Pacific, and that'll be the case again. We'll be back next week. And I don't know, head on over to echoplexmedia.com/support and send me some money, because the move seems like everything's going fine, but something always comes up, right? Something always comes up. This is Boomers by Periscope, and we'll be right back with more of this after I pour a strong drink.
You recall
into a hotel and whack off somebody.